All right, welcome back everybody to another deep dive. Today we're diving into something that I found super fascinating, and that is the concept of willful blindness.
Mm.
I was reading Margaret Heffernan's book, Willful Blindness,
Hmm.
and it really struck me how often we kind of just choose to ignore stuff,
Hmm.
even when the truth is like right there staring us in the face. I mean, we've all done it,
Eh,
right?
Yeah.
But the question is why? Why do we do this?
Hmm.
And, what are the real world consequences of that? So that's what we're going to be digging into today
Yeah.
with,
It's a good question.
it is a good question. So
Yeah.
maybe we should start there. Like, how do you even define willful blindness? I mean, it's more than just like
Well,
not knowing something.
yeah, it's more than just ignorance. It's
Yeah.
about having information and really almost having a sense that something's not right,
Mm.
but then choosing to just look away. Like imagine driving your car and a warning light comes on,
Yeah.
and you could pull over and figure out what's going on. But you keep driving and hope that the light just goes away.
Right.
That's kind of willful blindness.
Oh, okay. I'm already like getting this sinking feeling in my stomach just thinking about all the warning lights I've ignored.
Yeah.
But I guess that brings me back to the question of why.
Yeah.
Like, why do we do this to ourselves?
Yeah.
Is it just laziness? Or is there like something deeper going on?
Yeah, it's definitely deeper than laziness. It's about our brains kind of taking shortcuts, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things is this thing called confirmation bias, right?
Yeah.
So this is where we tend to seek out information that kind of validates what we already believe.
Yeah, even if it's wrong.
Exactly, and that can be especially strong if the truth is something we don't want to face.
Okay, so our brains are basically wired to protect our egos, even if it means like
Right.
ignoring reality. That's kind of terrifying.
It is a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Heffernan also talks about this thing called groupthink, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where this gets even more complicated. Because now you have like entire groups of people that are falling
Wow.
prey to this.
Exactly. Yeah. And groupthink happens when the need to like fit in or go along with the group overrides that critical thinking
Yeah.
that we need. And it happens a lot in high pressure environments.
Yeah.
Think about like the Challenger space shuttle disaster, right? The engineers had concerns. They knew the weather was too cold for the launch, but they didn't speak up. They just went along with it because there was so much pressure to launch on time.
Right, right. And that ended up being, obviously a tragic and avoidable accident.
Right.
It's really chilling how, our need to just fit in or go along with the group can override our judgment.
Yeah. But this isn't just about like these massive, disasters, right? I mean, this plays out
Oh,
in our
yeah,
personal
so-
lives too,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Okay, so how does that work? Like how does this kind of manifest in our personal relationships? Well, think about it, right? We might ignore some red flags in a partner because we don't want to be alone. Or we're afraid of what it would take to change our lives, right?
Mm.
Or maybe we avoid having a difficult conversation with a friend, hoping the issue just goes away on its own.
Yeah,
Even though, deep down we know it's kind of eating away at the relationship.
right.
So, yeah, all that avoidance just ends up creating more suffering for everyone involved.
Wow. So we're talking about some pretty serious consequences here,
Yeah.
both personally and on this larger scale.
Yeah.
But Heffernan doesn't just leave us hanging.
Right.
No, she doesn't.
Like there's got to be a way to combat this, right?
Right. She talks about a few things, but it really starts with self-awareness. We have to admit to ourselves that we all have these blind spots, right? And one thing we can all do is actively seek out different perspectives. And, if everyone around you is always agreeing, that might be a warning sign
Oh, okay.
that maybe some other voices are being shut down.
So if it feels too comfortable, that might be a red flag. Yeah, it could be.
So that's really interesting. But what about situations where, we're afraid to speak up? Like, let's say at work.
Right.
Like, what do we do in those situations?
That's when the culture of the organization is super important.
Mm.
Companies really need to build an environment where it's safe for people to disagree, where people feel like they can question things. And that's seen as a valuable thing, not like they're being insubordinate.
Yeah,
And it's up to the leadership to ask for feedback, even if it's hard to hear.
that makes a lot of sense. But even with the best intentions, how do we even know if we're, slipping into this
Right.
willful blindness? I mean, it seems so subtle.
Yeah, it can be really sneaky, but one way to catch it is to really pay attention to that gut feeling. Something feels wrong, don't just brush it off. Really ask yourself, What am I not wanting to see here?
Mm.
And what would happen if I actually acknowledge this truth?
Right.
And those questions can be pretty powerful tools in breaking through that willful blindness.
This has been like a really eye-opening conversation. I know I'm going to be looking at things a little differently now and kind of questioning my own assumptions and biases. So, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I would just say the next time you're faced with any kind of decision, big or small, just take a second, pause, and ask yourself, am I being willfully blind right now? And, that one simple question might save you a lot of trouble.
That's great advice. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive. And to everyone listening, we hope this encourages you to be just a little more vigilant, a little more questioning, and a lot less willfully blind. All right, we'll see you next time.